Hello viewers. A number of things are happening in the world this day. A lot of evil out there. But we know that if we get it right at the family level, then our society will be better. So we want to take our discussion to the family level. We want to start by looking at marriage. So the topic of discussion today is a question. Is marriage a covenant or a contract? And to answer this question, we have a lot of people here, some young people and some nearly old people. Everybody here is young and nearly old. Young myself also, glory be to God. So, sir, I want you to introduce yourself as our panelist, our guest today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Seyi Brown. I am an entertainer. I live in LA.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jojo Suleiman. I'm a captain in the Air Force, and I also work as a business consultant.
Captain in the Air Force. Amen. You, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Faithfulness. I'm an actor and a writer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Ogunleye. I am an administrator for an engineering company.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wahab Balogun. I'm a serial entrepreneur.
How many of us are married? Let me see if you're married first. Let's see your hand up. Okay, married. Okay. All right. Oh, it's even 3 married, 3 about to be married.
Yeah.
Okay, glory be to God. So let's begin. What is marriage? You that are married, what is marriage?
Marriage is a union between a man and a woman. Just the general man and a woman coming together, deciding that they love each other and they want to live in legal system that says they're together and there's no one else that's meant to be part of that relationship.
Amen. So marriage is legally recognized.
Yes.
Hallelujah. What's the purpose of marriage?
To forsake all else and come together, build together, and live life, as one, essentially.
Amen. Be together, be each other's companion. Where does the issue of raising children come in? Is it not part of marriage?
Yes, being a father of 3. Well, marriage is also a union of 2 people coming together for companionship and to procreate. That's raise the generation next generation. So that's part of it.
Okay. So now we were asking ourselves, is marriage a contract or a covenant? What is a contract? Who wants to help us? You want to talk about contract. What's a contract?
I would say contract is a legal binding between 2 people. That's what I would say, yeah.
Yeah, as a project manager, I know that contract has time scale.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for a particular period, has money connected, right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, has conditions of performance is okay. Anybody want to add anything to what a contract is?
Yeah, like you said, a legal agreement between 2 parties, 2 or more parties, on an agreement of a sort over a period of time, and in the case of contract, it has a time limit.
Okay, yes. Yes.
Yeah, there's also termination clauses. There's also
Yeah,
fine print.
contract has termination clause.
Yeah.
That's very brilliant. Yeah, it has.
There's also something called consideration. And that is, both of us coming together means that both of us have a role to play, not just a one-sided, I would give and you would take, but more like we would both give and it would be a win-win situation.
Depends on the contract, because not all contracts require performance of all parties.
From both parties.
Yes. Some people might perform something, someone else is receiving it. For example, in a construction contract, you're building something for me and I'm just expecting that you're going to build it to the terms that I have. Yes, I might pay you, or it might be something else that might be required. It might just be done for free. Depends on what the contract says. So it's not always someone performing.
Can we have a free contract without fundamentally have a primary contract for which the free one can be addendum to the main contract? Even in Nigeria, I'm talking about.
Exactly. There has to be something to give to
primary
something.
one.
Somebody's doing giving.
Yeah. It's always a symbiotic association.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
You
It
give,
is.
you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Yeah.
Give and
put in,
take.
I put in.
Yeah, it also has.
It might have a different scale.
level.
Yeah,
Yes.
different
One might
balance.
give more than the other.
Okay.
That's true. That's true. But then in contract, service is rendered and somebody pays for the service.
Yes.
Either service or supply
Exchange
or
of-
whatever, the exchange of goods or something.
Value.
Yeah, and you usually have specifications attached to the
it.
performance, to the kind of payment you're going to have. That's very good. But covenant, what is covenant? Who wants to start? Covenant?
I would say covenant is more of a spiritual binding.
Yeah.
It's like contract, but it's of a higher level. This is more in like the celestial realm to the terrestrial realm right now. That's how I see a covenant between the heavenly and the earthly, celestial and the terrestrial.
But in law, there's also covenants in law, in physical. There are contracts
Between
and there are
two-
covenants. Yes, between
yeah.
two parties or multiple parties.
So
I'm
what's
trying to remember all the terms, but
covenant in law? Tell us what's covenant in law?
it's I'm having a brain for it. I'm trying to remember
what it is.
all the details, but there are covenants in
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've heard language before that this is covenanted. So maybe when you have properties and lands and those kind of things you're talking about.
those
Yeah,
covenants.
that's true. Are there any similarity between contracts and covenants?
The agreement between two
Two people.
parties.
That's the way.
That's does covenants have a time limit?
No,
I don't think it's supposed to.
I don't think it does.
I think covenant is everlasting, unless it is
It's
broken
supposed to
by
be everlasting.
Yeah, unless it's broken by one party.
But doesn't the Bible say a condition under which every marriage can be dissolved?
Yes, it does.
So what does that make marriage then? Is it a contract or is it a covenant?
Both.
Or you say
I
covenant
think
is
it's a
everlasting?
combination of
It's
both.
both, yeah.
A combination. What says thou, Jojo?
I'm still trying to even process the word covenant because it's not just the idea of everlasting. I think it's also recognizing beyond what society says. So because a contract or a lot of legalistic terms that we use is because of where we live, it's because of how we act. But I feel like covenant is taking it to another level, saying this is not just according to society, this is now between you and I, our own coming together. So I think the similarities between contract and covenant would be that it is still two people saying, you know what, this is it. There's something here that we both would win, or maybe they both choose loss. But there's something here for all of us. So let's come together and actually forsake doing business or doing life with other people.
Yeah. But looking at the Bible says in marriage, two are become one. But in contract, two
Don't become one.
Two
That's-
don't
decide to
yeah,
leave.
that's
They
where
decide to leave.
that's where the spiritual aspect comes in.
Coexist, yeah.
Yeah.
And if I'm getting the revelation I'm getting right now, I'm feeling that covenant is a promise made from one to the other, because like if you look at from Abraham down to his generation, it was God that made the covenant with Abraham to say, okay, this is what I will do for your generations, and we have seen that God has made good of his promises to them. Now we too can make a covenant that if you do so thing for me, this is what me too I will do in return.
Yeah.
But
Like a pledge.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's a pledge more. So I think covenant is more like from, like osmosis and diffusion. A movement from a place of higher concentration to a movement of lower concentration.
Whoa.
Can I get a name? That's
Whoa.
a
Some of us left college to not
So I think covenant is more from a higher, realm to the lower realm to say, okay, all right, this is my promise to you. That means I have a higher authority to say, okay, all right. But contract is between two people, maybe of equal, yoke. But covenant is, I think, it's like diffusion from higher concentration to lower.
But if marriage is a covenant, aren't equal people coming together?
Two people, coming
Right,
together.
So it's not higher or lower.
So I think
Well, if it's a covenant, then we're looking at it based on spiritual, like two born agains coming together, right? Well, marriage
Two born again.
But marriage is not
Yeah,
like
marriage-
that.
marriage is
marriage-
not like that. Like,
A
so
lot of people get married and they're not born again or not
contract
born
wise,
again.
that's
But-
how you can look at
But
it. based
some
on
of
the
them
contract.
still have covenants with one another.
Yeah.
So just because you're religious does not mean you stop having that, like he said. And just to piggyback on what he said, it is a higher to a lower, but the lower can also do it to the higher.
Yeah.
So it's actually reciprocal. It's just more so saying I'm giving myself, I'm placing myself under this yoke to be indebted to you. And so I think sometimes even those that are lower can also say, hey, I am also placing myself under the umbrella of being indebted to you. I would do this for you, and you would do this for me. So,
Yeah, because when we do the wedding vows,
Vows.
it is the same thing they say to each other.
To each
Same-
other.
Yeah, the same commitment.
But Pastor, from the beginning, one party is mandated. It says a man. This is the man that goes forth. I mean, we know times are changing, but they say is a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. It didn't say the other way around.
No, but
we know times are changing.
I think a man leaving his father, leaving his parents, is a kind of response to the woman that is taken out of her own family
Yes,
to
but
join this new family, to the extent that she even forgoes her family's name.
yeah, but
So if a woman had done that, a man has to reciprocate.
yeah, but it's a man that says, "I want you." We know times are changing, but it's the man that proposed to say, "I want you to be." Madam, so you are the one mandated to. So that's where it starts. Like you're the one that's supposed to find. The woman is supposed to be found.
Is it, I want you to be, or will you be?
It's all requests. Will you be? I want you to
Will
be.
you be?
Depends on where in culture we're looking at. Because
Exactly.
today it's adjusting.
Yeah.
Previously,
That's
it
why
wasn't
the times
one
are
even had
changing.
choice. Father says you, my father says you, and your mother says that, and we don't have a choice. We have to marry, right? These days it's changing and it's adjusting. But I think also in the conversation, I think listening to the original question, covenant versus contract,
Yes.
we're doing justice in the conversation, but I think we'll probably do better justice if we actually look at the definitions, because I think if we have third parties looking at this, so like, well, they are far from what the definition, especially of covenant, is. So this is probably not normal, but can we pull up and actually check definitions of both? So we'll see parts of it that we're missing, because you understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
you can see
Because
what
I
does
think
the
covenant
mean?
is spiritual.
It is. That's how I look at
But
it.
it's also legal. In legal terms, you find covenants there.
Spiritual ginger.
So let's see. So what does covenant mean? What does contract mean? And then I think that actually helps us play, because if we're only speaking based on the biblical, then we're just looking based on the general background of Christians. And this is an open forum to all.
Okay. So you want us to look at grammar.
Yes. Let's see what's a covenant. What does the dictionary describe? And they're probably different
Okay.
things. And
Covenant
what is
says
a contract?
Covenant is an agreement, usually formal, between two or more persons to do or not do something specified. That is definition. Analysis under law is an incidental clause in such an agreement. Incidental clause. Then, talking ecclesiastically, it says a solemn agreement between the members of a church to act together in harmony with the precepts of the gospel. So it's also it's conditional promises made to humanity by God as a covenant,
Okay, that's the one.
as revealed in Scripture. The agreement between God and the ancient Israelites. That's one definition. Another definition is a formal agreement of legal validity, especially one under seal. Okay, to enter into covenant, to promise by covenant, pledge, stipulate, etc.
So covenant sounds like it has more weight than a contract.
We
in
don't
terms
know.
of heaviness.
Yeah, but this did not say anything about marriage.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
this one, it says, okay, they say, what is the purpose of a covenant? And
Yeah.
it says it's a binding promise of a far-reaching importance
Fighting
in the relations between individuals, groups, nations, and social and legal and religious and
So
all
it
that.
bears heavier weight than a contract.
Yeah, it carries more
Well, let's
weight.
look at contract. Contract says an agreement between two or more parties for the doing or not doing of something specified. That's still a common definition between contract and covenant. So the written form of such an agreement, it is also called contract breach. A variety of breach in which the side that wins the bid can earn greater more than the other party. Okay, we have ideas what we're
So
talking
contract
about.
basically states terms for things.
Yeah.
And covenant actually puts a burden of something, something.
I think in some aspect, covenants can be verbal.
Contract.
Because we didn't see anything about contract being verbal.
Contract, they're oral contracts.
Yeah.
They are also oral contracts.
Yes.
Yeah,
What if I break? What if I break it? What is
What
the
is
proof?
the
What is
law
the
will
evidence?
ask you-
Still-
the judge will ask you, what did you say? What did they say? And then they will use that based on that. To
And they have to witnesses.
usually
You're
witnesses.
still liable for an oral
And
contract.
that's
Yeah.
a detector test.
Now, but looking at it this way, different way, it appears a contract can be by choice of two people. But the covenant to me is looking like a divine instruction.
That's how I see it.
It's looking. That's what it's looking to me like, because a man shall not be alone.
Yeah, because in the issue of marriage,
So what's marriage? Okay, so,
Yeah.
so what's
yeah,
marriage?
in
Let's
the
talk
issue
about
of
marriage.
marriage now, because when the Bible says two shall come together, it says this is a mystery because of the mystery involved.
Yeah.
Because that's only where they say 1 + 1 becomes 1.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in logic, 1 + 1 is 2. So that means there's a spiritual undertone. So that makes covenant in the context of marriage different.
Yeah.
That means more is expected.
More
Because
is
two people are coming
expected.
together and they are multiplying.
Anyway, since you're saying the spiritual aspect, I actually think covenant is even heavier than two people. The reason why a covenant should not be broken at all is because God is the third person in that covenant, or the first and then the other two coming together. So when he says he hates divorce, literally saying like, hey, I'm the one inside here.
Yeah.
And so if you are going to separate, then I need to be able to be part of that separation also.
And you should be part of the discussion, part of the conversation. Okay, so now, is marriage a covenant or a contract?
I think it's more of a covenant than a contract.
It's supposed
It's
to
a
be,
combination of both, but I would say 70-30.
It's supposed to be a covenant. That's the goal.
I would say
essentially.
70-30 covenant, maybe 30% contract.
Jojo.
Interesting thing he said, it says supposed to be.
Yeah,
So which means you actually have choices to see what you can make your marriage.
definitely. I think a lot of people, a covenant means more responsibility, but a contract, which we see in our day and age, you can divorce someone if you don't like something about them. But a covenant, it's like, okay, I'm going to work through this because I've made a promise between this person and the Lord. So I'm actually going to work through this. And I feel like a contract is, like when I think of contract, I think ink. When I think covenant, I think blood.
Blood.
It's deeper. So it's like, yeah,
That's a mystery involved.
right.
That's why it's different.
Now, I like the way you have put it. If you look at contracts, you're talking about ink. Ink in the dotted line. We are talking about covenant, we are talking about blood. But there's something I want us to consider here. Does culture have an effect on covenants? Like some parts of the world, if you look at the way the Indians handle marriages, or the way the Africans handle marriages, and the way the Western world handles marriages, there seem to be some discrepancies. Speak to it.
Yeah.
How come? Yes, sir.
So I actually don't think anyone goes into marriage and they think, you know what, this is going to be a contract. There are anomalies, but like generally you go in with the mindset of a covenant. Just so most people go in saying, I'm going to be devoted to you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you and all those, everything else that entails it. However, I feel like down the line, it actually becomes a contract. So it starts out
In
generally
certain communities.
right in certain communities.
Yes.
However, I'm going to use African as an example. So Africans, we always think like, oh yeah, you know, we're gonna go into it because it's a covenant and you'll need to stay in it. But one thing that is happening more prevalently in our culture is actually that it's also turning into contracts as well.
Which culture now? I'm talking about the
African culture. There's a lot of westernized world that we're examples that we're emulating right now, whereby we are also divorcing those cultural beliefs that we had that talked about, hey, when you come together, you're forever and all of that. But then we're letting the Western world kind of decide how this is gonna look, or circumstances in our lives just you're like, you know what, I really wanted this to work, but you know what, it just might not.
But looking at the African culture or some of those third worlds, it appears it's deeper than that. It appears families are involved. I mean, you just don't wake up one day and say, this person I'm married and I'm going away. And you can't wake up one day and say, this person I don't want to marry again, and that's it. No, families have to meet. Discussion have to be held. So many things. So does it make it then more of a covenant than a contract in Africa?
I think, Africans are very spiritual people. There's hardly any African culture that they don't refer to the spiritual aspect of the culture. Like if you listen to the Yoruba language, everything we say by the grace of God, and we believe that God, this is God's grace, this is God, even in our local language. And I'm even separating from Christianity in the indigenous language. So when marriages happen in these different cultures, the spiritual aspect is involved. So I would take it as more of a covenant, and that is why, like for example, we know in the Yoruba culture, if a husband says, "Oh, I'm not interested anymore," what he officially does is he asks the parents to return the dowry. Oh yeah,
They still collect
they return
dowry?
the dowry.
Well,
Official, like they do it on official. They perform some right. Like for instance, the Onion of Ife, when he divorced the wife, they have to perform some rites.
Okay.
And that's because it's based on the culture. They have to perform some rites so that she will now be officially free to either remarry or go.
I think that's because he's a king, but generally, like you were saying, the community, it's family marries family. So when there's a problem, the whole family comes and they actually decide what it is. And regardless of the problem, husband, wife, so what is your problem? What's your problem? Then they give them sentences. You have to love her, you don't have a choice. You have to do this, you're not cooking, you have to cook. You're not loving, you're seeing the other girl outside, stop it from today. And they literally demand. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
They demand, and then literally now both husband and wife now have to decide how they want to follow and live according to that. But generally, the families sit down, and the same way they all came together for that wedding, that's the same way the general family members come together and they...
One other thing that happens in those days is that even when the husband of a woman dies, that does not free that woman from that family.
Yeah.
They might even ask her to remarry somebody in that
They will. They actually will her
to someone
to somebody else in the family.
Yeah.
It still happens.
In those days.
But it still happens.
Some cultures still try to do it.
Wow.
I think even in Israel, it may still be happening in Israel. The Jews, it may still be happening
I have an
there.
extended family that happened to recently. It still happens.
So I think regardless of what culture, regardless of what country, marriages started out as a contract, as a covenant.
As a covenant.
Yes,
As a
it's
As a
covenant,
covenant. Every culture. But
yes.
we've let the
Foreign
new, not just the foreign culture, the new, it's now a little bit more sexy to be able to decide that you want to change it from a covenant to a contract. So I think our forefathers, or like the old ways to do it, they had a lot of influence in our lives. So it was a little hard for you to go up to your parents and be like, I'm done with that guy. But today, it's even your parent would be like, are you done? Let's go home. So I think it's changing times have changed marriages, not all marriages, of course, but like has made the element of contracts more prevalent in our marriages today.
I think that comes from a rebellion that's coming from society, and I feel like that comes from a lot of people have abused the covenant, and I feel like that's when a lot of people are coming from, I don't want this to be a covenant anymore. If there's a problem, I want there to be a way out for myself. And that's when they shifted to this contract. But I feel like the consequence of that is it's not as deep as it's supposed to be. So when I come into this covenant, I have 1 foot in, but 1 foot out the door because I'm afraid of being hurt, being abused, being whatever. So it's kind of complicated today. I definitely
hence the prenup.
Right.
The prenup literally says, hey,
Contract.
we're contracting it just in case, and these are the terms of exit.
I think civil society, in an attempt to broker peace or to make sure that nobody becomes cheated in marriage, they're the ones that are involving all kind of rules that more or less make it a contract. Like they say, whatever you've heard before you got married is yours. But whatever you acquire when you are married belongs to two of you. Even inheritance. If your father wills something for you before marriage, is yours. But after marriage, if it's willed to you, it belongs to the two of you.
But the good news is most of us now come into the marriage without a single thing. So most of the time we're both just trying to like survive at that point.
Okay. So from the way the discussion is leading, to me, it's begin to look as if marriage is both contracts and
A couple.
governance. So in marriage, who can we say is a senior partner? Who has more rights?
Also, to
Who
bring
has
that
more
up,
authority?
to bring that up these days, to bring out of feminism and every other thing that is, now they are saying is equality. So we don't want to get in trouble. But I mean, the Bible says,
Is it really equality? It's not equality.
well, it depends. Just like I don't know. I think it was Bola that raised that it depends on what the agreement is. If some people say, I want my wife to be a full-time housewife, just take care of the children. I know a couple where the husband is a doctor, the wife is a lawyer. She even went to Ivy League college, but the husband said, "I want you to be a full-time housewife and take care of my children." That was the agreement. Even the wife's dad was very mad that after spending all this money, you're going to be. But that was the agreement. And she's happy doing that. She joined the lawn tennis, squash, and that she does that. But yeah, so
Well, I think we have a situation of some women also saying, "Darling, don't worry, I make all the money. Just take care of us,
Yeah.
the bill and everything."
The woman telling that.
You have cases like that.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. Like, also, if I was married to Oprah, she's the head.
I still insist that it's not even equal, because in this nation, if you have any problem with your wife and the police come to send somebody out, have you ever had a case where they send the woman out before?
Only if she's the aggressor.
Even if she's the aggressor, she's not the one that be sent out. They will consider the children. All the time, 9 cases out of 10 cases, the man will be the one that we have to pack. That's why I came with that statement that in Nigeria, or in Africa, God should not drive us away from our wives' home, from our husbands' home. But here, Ayani,
Yes.
it doesn't matter.
And that's why I advise couple that, once you cross the Atlantic to America, just know that
You redefine.
you are going to change the whole, you start doing Pastor, I never got into the kitchen to do dishes until I got to America. Now I do it to the glory of God. What I'm saying is that things change, when you get to this part of the world, Pastor. It's,
Let them say something like that.
Whether it's in there or here, I don't think there's ever any contract or a covenant that both parties are equal partners. It's not possible. Even in the business where you have 50-50 partners.
50-50, one person.
It's just somebody's always dominant and someone always does less. It's just how it is. So in a marriage, you never have equal parties doing the exact same thing. It's just impossible.
But is it the mind of God for it to be equal, really? I mean, let's talk about it, because if it is the mind of God for it to be equal, let me just go a little bit
Deep.
ridiculous now, not deep, necessarily deep. Why can't a man too get pregnant and carry me for 9 months?
What a sight.
Well,
Because it's not possible. It's genetically not possible.
God could have made
Yeah, it's not
God
possible.
wanted it to be equal. God could have made it possible. There's nothing God couldn't have done.
That's true.
So just to inject a little bit, I believe that each person has a role
Exactly.
in marriage, and any woman that says that the man is not the most with the, I would say, dominating role, I think they've not really analyzed it. Not even to go spiritual, just even to go just naturally. Someone, a couple really close to me, the husband would be like, "Hey, if I know I cannot do this and I know that a plumber is coming in the house, I'm going to go hide upstairs. Because when they see my wife, they're going to just help her do it. But if they see me there, they're automatically going to say, you know what, you could figure it out." If it's something that is just because, not just society, but just because the way that we've all kind of come together, the man has a role that has always been his, and the woman has a role. And whenever each of them starts stepping into each other's role, that's when there's a problem in most marriages.
The man that says, when the plumber sees my wife, it will help her, he's taking a risk. It may help her and love her.
I think because
So the
physiologically,
man has to protect. You have to protect your wife.
physiologically, men are just stronger.
Stronger.
So we're supposed to do probably, the hard work,
Stronger
and all
physically.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Honestly,
what I think. So
When we even talk about children too, when it comes to raising the kids, each person has their own role.
Yeah.
And so when you start as a man becoming the woman, you're messing a lot of stuff up. And as a woman, when you're trying to be a man, you're just jacking up those children. And
But
so
sometimes women,
are stronger.
they are stronger.
Yeah.
Sometimes women play their role as mothers. And at the same time, I want to teach you how to play your role as fathers according to their own thinking. There is usually conflict that kind of setup.
Okay, first of all, in my own dynamic, right, I wanted to be the cool dad. Growing up, everybody was like, I want to be the cool dad of my kids. But I noticed that their mom is the softer woman. She's American. So I said, no, there can't be two soft people in this house. So I had to switch role. So I became the
Soft.
disciplinarian
Oh.
of the house. So I am that, you're going to do that, I'm going to report it to your dad. So I became that person.
That role.
But I still mix my role. But growing up, my mom was the disciplinarian of the house. Her nickname was police. You understand? So
Actually,
it depends.
you look like police.
Get dressed up as
It depends on the dynamic of the house.
Yeah.
My dad was so I wanted to be like my because my dad was a cool dude. Once it's my mom, we're hiding or we're just pretending to read. But once our dad comes, we try to say, hey, it's time to play. You understand? So I think it depends on the roles that.
But even in that situation, what I found is this: you never want to do anything that will upset your dad where he's the one disciplines you.
Oh yeah.
Your mom disciplines you all the time, you're used to it. But literally, if she ever gets to the point where she says, I'm going to call your dad, you literally automatically, everything.
Yeah, you don't want to
resets.
be in his bad books.
Exactly. So, yes, so just like you said, everyone has their roles. Whether you choose to play it in a tougher way or less way, it's always there. It's always unsaid a lot of times. And literally, we're literally biologically built for those things and those roles.
Yeah.
And so now society is trying to reset some of those things. And that's why there's a lot of problems, psychological problems just being developed from the resets, from the recalculations, from the change that's happening. And like you said, the civil society is trying to help fix some problems that have arisen, but doesn't mean that the fix is now the right fix. That it's causing a lot of damages that, yes, it's fine for human rights generally, but for creation, I don't say creationness, but for how creation was set up, like people are getting more messed up by the day.
Yeah, but why can't we all follow the dynamics that God Himself put in place? Say, husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave His life for the church. And it's husband, deal with your woman with wisdom. And it did not now say, wife, love your husband. I think in the Bible, you're supposed to do that. But specifically, it said, woman, honor, respect your own husband.
yeah, Pastor, it's because the men today, the civil men today, don't actually understand that little dynamic that what you just described. If we actually follow it the way the Bible prescribed it, there would be more blessed homes. But whenever we have people that think that they want to find a way to pull the woman down, even though yes she's from your ribs, yes she's maybe secondary to you, yes you're the authority, but you're not supposed to over her. You're supposed to love her through it. And one thing that I always want to stress to my husband, I'm like, hey, it says love your wife first before it says respect your husband. Now it's a joke.
Yeah.
But
You have a point.
The whole idea though is that I feel like sometimes we ignore one to bring up the other one. Both sides, husband or wife.
Sometimes.
Pastor, because of that thing, I said respect is earned. So I think most men just want that respect automatically because I'm just a man.
Is it always respect that is, and isn't love to end?
Yes, and that is
it's
why.
actually not. No, it's not.
No.
But Pastor, love is a feeling.
Listen to me.
Oh, it's deeper.
Is it even that?
Listen to me. If my son wants me to love him continuously the way the Lord wants me to love him, he must earn the love and the respect.
That's your son, not your wife, though. That's the difference.
That's why I made my son as an example to let you know that love is love.
Very true.
Because, and I'm speaking from so many counselors one has done over the years. The problem is usually this. The woman has in her mind the way she wants to be loved.
True.
And the man also has in his mind the way he wants to love. And when
That is why the counseling part is so important.
yeah, so when they don't come together, that's where the problem is. That's why we're talking about, okay, what you don't say at the beginning. Love is fundamental. It has to come together simultaneously, loving and respecting. You can't say one comes first before the other. They both have to keep on happening. Well, a man too must respect his wife.
Right.
Yes. I agree. Pastor, you made a vital point with the love and respect thing. But I think most men these days don't put in the work, but they want the respect. You understand? You say you are the husband, you're not putting in the work, you're not working, you're not providing for the family, but you still want the respect. You're not doing what you're supposed to do, but you still want the respect. And I think that's one of the major problems with the Generation X men.
Is that common with the
They feel it's automatic.
enlightened community we have now?
Well,
I think.
I actually want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier. You said that before, the first time you ever did dishes was when you got here.
Yeah.
So now, to go back, was it actually convenient when it was just the woman that was doing everything? Not to be a feminist or anything, but let's just kind of switch this around and be like, it must have been very uncomfortable for the woman to be the one to always do the dishes, always take care of the home, always do this, and this.
It was because of division of labor. I come from a house of 10 boys, 8 girls. So, like a big family. So I'm being the first boy. There are some things, of course, as I got bigger, the ones under me would do it. You do this. So my job was to tell you,
Delegate.
do the dishes. You wash the car. You put the house in order. You are the one going to get groceries in the market. So what I just do is, delegate, just like you said. I'm in charge of all that.
But your parents make you responsible for some other things.
Yes, but it doesn't. I mean, it didn't mean I didn't do before they got to that. I was the one washing clothes, but the kitchen aspects, it had nothing to do with. You know how it is in Africa, had nothing to do. But it didn't mean I didn't work while growing up. I started washing clothes at age 10 with my bare hands. Wash clothes, put the house in order. But the kitchen, my sisters just handled that. So it wasn't like they didn't have to do the jobs that I did, like washing the car. Girls never washed the car.
But I think there's a negative connotation to being in the kitchen or raising the kids or washing the clothes as if that's not important. It's very important.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that what we see in society today, just how you said, like the man puts the woman down, or even other women put other women down for raising kids or being in the kitchen. Why are you just gonna let your husband do that? It's just like, you don't think this is an important part to a household? And it's supposed to be a thing of, let me handle this, you handle this, let's coexist to make our environment better. Not just, oh, I'm the leader, you're the subordinate. It's not, I don't think it's about that.
Please go ahead.
That's a really good point. But there's something he said earlier when he was joking. He said, Oprah, right? Oprah coming to the place and he'll be in the house taking care of kids and all that stuff. But I tell you, something will happen. Year 1, yes, it's fine. Year 2, year 3. Eventually, you don't notice the money anymore. All of a sudden, you notice that she's not respecting you. All of a sudden, washing those, you don't want to wash those. We should hire somebody to do this because I'm a man. All of a sudden, your biology starts saying, I'm a man. Now, you're not even noticing the money anymore. So what do we say about that? Because there are things that literally were set into us in our biological clocks.
Yeah.
That the more we're avoiding, I keep saying this, people are getting messed up.
It's the way we are wired.
You guys are even blessed. You are blessed. I didn't want to say lucky or anything. You are blessed because when I'll be so much used, so much trained to washing dishes with soap, sponge, and water.
That feels like baptism sometimes.
Exactly. So much so that when I got to the US, I didn't trust the washing machine.
The washing machine. Pastor, even till now.
For 2 years,
I don't use the dishwasher.
For 2 years of my being in America, I didn't use the dishwasher. I believe that
it will waste time.
Not
You can't wash it clean.
I believe wash clean. It was until my wife came to church 2 years later that okay, all right, let's trust it, let's look at it and everything, So it depends on what we are all exposed to. Also, marriage in particular. If you grew up seeing your father abuse your mother and he gets away with it, you might develop mentality of abusing
feel
your wife
entitled to
also.
do
Abuse.
If you grow up seeing the family not really taking care of the kids, maybe the kids are taken care of on the street, you're not going to pay much attention to your kids also. Those are the things we need to look at when we are looking at these covenant or contract issues.
And it makes it easier to get out of a covenant. When you're like, if you,
Yeah.
the example ahead of you is that it's normal for you to get out. If it's, don't seek counseling, just get out. I think that's why people are choosing the easier path. Instead of staying true to the covenant, they're like, you know what, it was a contract. You loved me and I loved you, but now I don't love you no more. And it looks like you might not love me no more. I'm out. And I think we kind of like need to move away from that and understand that both parties have a role to play,
Yeah.
and then just keep the sanctity of marriage.
I think the covenant aspect make us value the fact that marriage also has to do with responsibilities.
Yeah.
You can't say, well, I don't love you again, you don't love me again, therefore we go in our ways when there are 3 kids involved. You have to be taking these children up and down all over the place. It's not the kind of thing that we
Yeah, I think it's a mindset you get into marriage. If you have in the back of your mind that, okay, all right, this is it, and that's where you walk towards it. And, just like we're talking about love languages, you said,
Yeah.
there's a way the wife wants to be loved, and there's a way the husband wants to love.
That's a topic.
where,
That's
you know,
a topic on its own.
yeah,
Yeah.
pastor,
That's a topic.
that's where the 5 love languages come in. Your love language is not my love language, my love language is not yours, and all that. And
You are speaking Greek, speaking
Chinese.
Latin.
And the funny part is that we all exert our love language. So even if your wife is a love's gift, but you like words of affirmation, what you would give her is words
Word
of
of
affirmation.
affirmation, yeah.
And she's like, but that's not what I want. So it's very interesting dynamic.
So how do women from Africa come to love roses?
Pastor, that's a borrowed culture.
That's what.
Loving roses is a borrowed culture. I mean, I still find it. I still find it.
Excuse me, but she doesn't like roses.
Oh, thank
I like
God.
roses.
Thank
Give
you.
me
God
fruit.
bless you.
But most African women actually don't.
Most everything we do.
You don't look like. Hey, I wanted to say.
No, I didn't say oh, I said most.
I had that revelation.
When I was
dating
Flowers
non-American, we gave roses. When I didn't, I noticed it literally stays there and it dies.
No, I think that
It's not a culture.
you have to have a love for flowers before you can
It's for
appreciate.
those who love flowers,
Yeah.
because if you really watch those who really love flowers, when you give it to them, what they do is they inhale, they smell it, they take it in. But when you give somebody, hey, thank you, they put it somewhere there and they're looking at what's next.
That's me.
It's not, I don't like it because it's just flowers. I just like it because it's so beautiful. And the fact that your thought, when you saw this, you thought of me. So this is for all the
So
men
they love
here.
language.
That's a love
That's a
language.
love language.
How about
Possibly.
chocolate?
Pardon?
Chocolate's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Nice. So it's
It is
like,
beautiful.
there's roses, there's diamonds, there's gold, there's
It's
so
just-
many
if
Yeah,
they-
Master, rather than somebody give me bouquet of roses, just make a goosey soup with it.
That's
I will
love.
feel it in my heart.
It's flowers too, but it's edible flowers. I fed that.
Okay, now I want to ask you a question, and then I give us a few seconds to round up this topic, because you can never really end this kind of interesting conversation. So, which one for a marriage will you prefer as authentic, knowing that both are mixed in it? Is it covenant or contract? We know both are involved, but which one do you think carries a superior authority, covenant or contract?
I would say covenant.
Thank you. You say covenant or contract also?
I'll say covenant.
I would say covenant.
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 But you didn't give us your answer.
Covenant also.
Okay.
Or
So now-
contractual covenant.
No, don't mess it up again. Covenant is covenant. Now, our time is up, but I want each of you to take just 2 statements party statements for people who are out there that can help them understand marriage better. Those who are married and those who are looking to get married. Sir?
I'll tell you, understand that love is something that's just not an emotion. It goes beyond that. And so when you enter a marriage relationship, the love requires sacrifice. And that sacrifice is covenantal. And so in there, it means that regardless of how bad it seems to get, you have a drive to always want to fix it. And with that, you get a good expected end.
Thank you so much, sir. Maybe.
I would say, if you're looking to get married, like me, you should be whole by yourself, figure out who you are as a person, because you're going into covenant with someone else. You want to be whole. I know they said 1 + 1 = 1, but still you can't carry your baggages from the childhood or your past into, your union. So it's a covenant, you're pledging, so, make sure that you're doing basically the best thing for you and just, that's it.
I would say emphasize knowledge over love in the sense that know the purpose of marriage, know why you want to be married, know things about yourself, know things about the other person. And I feel like that will equate into a longevity rather than just something of feelings and something of emotions, which apparently dissipates. So knowledge, yeah.
You have experience at dating?
I think it looks count.
Yes, sir, Jojo.
I would say marriage is a beautiful thing when it's in alignment with the way that God intended it, which is, love your wife and respect your husband, but also do both. Like as a wife, know that you gotta love your husband, and as a husband, know that you have to respect your wife.
Fantastic. Sir?
Yeah, well, my advice is that, most of the problem people have is because the expectation is too high. So just know that when you are going in, know that you're going to love someone more than yourself. And lower your expectation. You're not ice cream.
Glory be to God. Thank you so much. You guys make it very interesting and very funny. But it's a serious business.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of the matter. My own concluding comments are that, number one, we're happy that marriage is supposed to be a covenant. And that covenant is not the idea of those who are involved. It's the idea of the supreme being who created us, who knows our needs, and who knows the way by which you can be supported. So if you are in a marriage, you have to make sure that we are not out of tune with the author of marriage itself. And it is Christ, our Lord Jesus, who can always help us. At the very beginning, the wine finished. Which means, however you may love each other, there gets the point that the wine will finish. You look at your partner as if,
What was I thinking?
It happens in and out. You cannot tell your brother, your sister, to leave the house that you are no longer together. That's the by covenant. Same thing with your wife, with your spouse. So, brothers and sisters, we've had it all. And my advice: do not leave the Holy Spirit out of your marriage. Let Christ be the center. There'll be challenges, yes. There'll be pains, yes. There'll be injury. There'll be injury time. There'll be me time. There'll be all kind of times. Always go back to Christ. God bless you. We are the Open Pulpit, and please, you can check us out on YouTube and Facebook. The website is also the Open Pulpit.org.